Jesus said, "But in the account of the bush, even Moses showed that the dead rise, for he calls the Lord the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob." That's in Luke chapter 20, verse 37. Very convenient reference. We have the numbers. We can just go there. As a matter of fact, in that passage in my Bible, there's notes right next to it. It has a note that says, in abbreviated form, Exodus 3:6. And I can turn there and I can read the passage that is referred to. And I go there, interesting, in Exodus 3:6, there's nothing about a bush. You see, back when Jesus was speaking, the book, which we call Exodus, was available in the synagogues as a scroll that went from beginning to end, letter against letter, word against word, with no spaces and no numbers. So how do you tell what you're referring to? The accepted way was to refer to a few familiar words, perhaps a familiar verse that was easily memorized, frequently memorized, and the person that you were speaking to would remember those words or that verse from their own Bible study and know where you were talking about. And if they wanted to look it up themselves, they knew where to go. And so Jesus, to refer to this passage that he needed to reference, he simply says, the account of the bush. And we go there. And if we go back a few verses to verses 2 and 3 and 4, there's references to the burning bush. And in 6 is the part that Jesus wants to talk about, where God said that he's the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob when he spoke to Moses. Now, this is the common way that scriptures are referred to. And the reason I'm speaking about it today in this lesson is that I am preparing a lesson, which you should be able to see the same day you see this, about a cross-reference, a different cross-reference that Jesus makes. And if we don't understand how Jesus is making the cross-reference, we could miss his point. Because just as the bush is a few verses before the point that Jesus was making here, many times New Testament writers refer to the vicinity of what they're talking about, to the most familiar piece. Imagine, if you would, in modern day, a group of soldiers of mixed nationality are serving together in Afghanistan. And there are 2 Americans among them. And as the group is watching a particularly intense night aerial bombardment, the one American says to the other, "Oh, say, can you see?" His companion nods his head, his American companion, says, "Yeah. So their other companions of different nationality with different background might wonder, was he concerned of his companion's vision, that perhaps he'd gotten sand in his eyes? Was he concerned that he wasn't paying attention? Why does he ask, "Oh, say, can you see?" He doesn't realize that what was shared between them is a familiar passage. And that what the soldier was referring to his buddy was, "And the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air." And his buddy knew exactly what he was referring to when he said, "Oh, say, can you see?" using the most familiar words. In the same way, the New Testament writers and the speakers, and Jesus when he's speaking, use the familiar words. And so, They will say these words and sometimes quote a verse or two verses or half a verse, and this can lead to real problems and controversy today. Because sometimes Bible interpreters will see these things and spend tremendous effort trying to see how the point that is being made is proven by the words or the verse that's quoted, and it is not. It is not proven by that. But if you do as the writer intended and use those words to key you to a longer passage that you should be familiar with, read the whole passage from the beginning of the chapter to the end of the chapter, as we would say today. There, very near to the verse that was quoted, there you'll find the answer, and you'll see, aha, it does prove that point when you follow the cross-reference of the words. Since that will be crucial in the lesson that I'm preparing, I wanted to make this little lesson about how to follow the cross-references that Jesus and Paul and John and Peter make, so that you'll know how to find what they are referring to and how to understand the point that they are making.